I'm going to continue my series of interviews with Australian riders who are going to the Tokyo Olympics. And this time around, I'm speaking with Maeve Plouffe, another Olympic debutante. And it comes a couple of hours after I talked to Luke Plouffe. I'm going to find out a little bit more about Maeve. We've never met, but I've watched her progression from the junior ranks into the Olympic selection fold. And she's an endurance athlete who is expected to be part of the Team Pursuit lineup in Tokyo. We will find out a lot more about the preparations she's been doing when I talk to her. I'm going to invite her into this interview and we'll get the show on the road. Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you finally.
We had a similar backdrop for the interview with Luke Plouffe, so I gather you're in the same Brisbane hotel getting ready for the big trip.
Yeah, so Luke's just up the hallway from me, so we're all here in the Glen, and yeah, it's pretty locked down, so we've been spending a lot of time in our rooms lately, but that's fine. I guess you get a lot of good recovery in.
Okay, and so if you're in the room, does that mean you have to sit there with a home trainer as well, or have you been gracing the boards? What's the riding in the main riding regimen for you at the moment?
Yeah, we've been on the track quite a lot. We've got, even though it's not necessary in Brisbane to be doing sort of all the COVID stuff with social distancing kind of from a track perspective, we've still gone above and beyond with that with the track just in case there is a positive result somewhere in the community. So we've been using the track. We got a separate entrance, walkways, everything all set up. We were actually there this afternoon and we've been riding really well, really fast. And yeah, we've been pretty much there every second day or every day, sometimes even.
Let's talk about your event. So I'm nominating you for a Team Pursuit start, but do you go to the Omnium as well, or do you go to Madison perhaps? What's your role going to be? Can you explain what your expectations are?
Yeah, sure. As one of the younger riders, my role is pretty much exclusively on the Team Pursuit. So it is still a big ask. We've got 3 rides, I think, over the total of the Team Pursuit event. So, yep, that's my focus.
Okay, and I heard that you have to do 2 of those rides in one day. Are you feel threatened by that prospect, or you feel up to doing 8 kilometres in a day?
When you say it as 8 kilometers in a day, it doesn't really seem that long. No, so obviously from like a technical and tactical perspective, the double up of this actually changes a lot for the women's race compared to the men's race, which is obviously 3 staggered over 3 days. But of course, remembering that every other team is under the same pressure to back up within an hour and a half. So no, I'm not nervous because all the other teams have to go through the same thing. I think it just will change the dynamic of the race completely because you're looking at who's got the 5 strongest riders as compared to the 4 strongest riders because we're going to be probably swapping people in and out. And I think that actually plays to our team's strengths. And it is a strength of our team as well that we're physically fit and those things so we can back up race after race.
I have spoken already with Ashad Kudinov, but that was many moons ago, and we were trying to get an overview of who the 5 are. But can you just go through the list for me, just so that for the purpose of this interview?
Yeah. So we've got myself, Alex Manley, who's rooming with me now. We've got Ashad Kudinov, Anna Edmondson, and Georgia Baker. The pedigree of cycling, especially Team Pursuit cyclists in Australia, is phenomenal. You know, you've got some of the biggest names in Australian cycling, all who have gone through and started their career and ended their career in Team Pursuit riding, because it is such a technical and high power event. So it is a very challenging event and something that takes years and years of practice to get right. So to go and do that in my early 20s is incredible. And it's like I watched Rio as I would have been 16, I think, when I watched Rio, and I got to see the girls who I'm now lining up with race Rio. So to think that only 5 years on, it was originally going to be 4, but 5 years on, I'm racing with them is something so exciting. So yeah, that's like a bit of a pinch yourself moment.
But you've been in the cycling realm a while. I know your father's heavily involved with PR in South Australia, so you've therefore watched the Tour Down Under all of your life. But can you give us a little bit of a background of how you came to the track? And is there also a road ambitions in the future?
Yeah, so I was a swimmer and surf lifesaver when I first started sort of dabbling in sport, and I loved sport from an early age. Like I would be up training at 4 a.m. when I was 11 or 12 years old and doing kilometers and kilometers in the pool and in the ocean. So sport was always a very big part of my life. Then I was introduced to cycling actually from a talent identification process with the South Australian Sports Institute. I was suggested that I go and do some physiology testing. So they did like the beep test and height and weight and all sorts of different things, jumping. And they actually put me in cycling. And I don't have any friends or family that cycle. I'd watched the Tour Down Under a couple of times, like done the mini kids tours or whatever, but I definitely didn't have a road bike. I had no idea what track cycling was. In fact, I didn't even want to go to the come and try day because I didn't even think it was a sport. So I was a bit funny about it at first, but as soon as they got me on a track bike, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so fun. It's something I suggest everyone does in their life, to be honest. Even the road cyclists, a lot of them I meet haven't been on the track before, and it is definitely a game changer. And yeah, to be honest, there's definitely road ambitions there, because when I started out, I would say that I was probably almost better in on the road than I was in the track to begin with. I definitely sort of started off with that road time trial event. That was my first national title as a junior, actually. And it's definitely something I'd like to focus on in the future. But since I was in juniors, I've never had a road season. It's always been track, just because that's where the opportunities have opened up. And I'm so grateful that I've followed that track pathway. I think it's great for your skills and your development. But yes, I would love to do road one day when the opportunity arises.
Okay. I mean, the SASI program does tend to reel in some superstars. There's a guy called Rowan Dennis who basically followed a similar path to you. He came from swimming.
Yeah, he's all right.
He's done okay for himself. Is there anything that you can report, just basically because we haven't been able to see you race for so long? So we can't really talk about the results in the last year and a half.
Yeah, isn't that crazy that we haven't raced since Berlin? So yeah, there isn't actually been any point where we've been in the limelight or anything like that. So that is definitely a point. I haven't really thought too much about that. The culture in the team is really great at the moment. I definitely think it's quite a mature team. Like we have quite a lot of experience, and we've got a lot of girls on the team who have actually been to Olympics before and done it before and seen it before. So they have a lot of trust in the process, and they're kind of guiding like myself and Alex, who this is our first Olympics, but even Alex has gone through an Olympic prep and things like that before. So the experience is definitely showing in our team, I think, and we're actually being really consistent lately, which is something that's great and something that we've had to work a lot on in the last few years. So there have been no sessions missed, nothing, no sickness, injuries, illnesses in the last few months, touch wood. But I think that's something that excites me the most with our team at the moment, is the consistency day in, day out in training, and we're consistently riding well. So that's really exciting.
Just because it's 2021, we have to sort of speak about it. But does the COVID situation bother you? What about just the atmosphere of racing with no crowds? It's an obvious question, but I'm curious of your feedback.
Yeah, well, that is the thing, is that we sort of grow up as young athletes hearing about the Olympics and the craziness that goes on with the crowds and the village and this and that. And it's all based around all the people being together, right? And then when you're going this year, though, that's all gone. So it is very sterile. It's very, you fly in, we're in a hotel, and then we race, and there's a COVID test every day, and then we leave. I think the biggest challenge with the COVID situation, I'm not worried about traveling. I'm not too worried about much of that from a health perspective, because we are vaccinated, and we have great care, and we're very fortunate to be racing. I think it's just the challenge of that if anyone does go positive or even has a temperature or anything like that, then potentially that's a barrier to even get to the start line. Even a false positive could potentially see you out of the race, which is definitely a scary thought. So that's why we are going through all these protocols now to make sure that we are just on that start line. That's the biggest part of it.
Let's talk a little bit of tech, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know that you've received, for example, your skin suits, and there's been a lot of adjustments being made to positions, individualization of the the aero tuck and everything. When you got the Olympic skin suit, was there a wow moment? Did you go, oh yeah, I can see a half a second coming off? Was there anything in the build up to the games that has really made you think, oh, I'm faster?
I think so. It's actually really interesting. I think that with the skin suits and like all that equipment and things like that, as you just said, the word individualization, it is very individual, and obviously all those skin suits and the fabrics and things with the shoes and helmets and glasses, everything like that adds up and makes a difference. But for me individually, the thing that was my biggest gain was just my body position and how I ride. So I've pretty much had to change entirely how I ride and how I hold myself on the bike. And that's when it was like, whoa, okay, like what happens when you actually put your head down? And it was so basic, but just looking at the videos of myself from in the World Cup in 2019, how high my head was at the end of the race and things like that, that's just saving seconds and seconds. So that was definitely it for me. But with some athletes, you see a bigger gain from the skin suit or like a helmet or bike wheels, everything like that. But it is very individual. And for me, my big thing was my actual body position on the bike.
That's interesting. That's really cool, because I know that there was all this work with tucking into your shoulders and all of that kind of detail. And when you've got that big bulbous helmet, it does make it, it's kind of pronounced, isn't it?
Yes. And they're very hard to fit correctly and everything. There's definitely a lot of tweaking before we get on the start line. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have 3D printed bars? Do you sort of feel, special?
Yeah, it is. The bikes are beautiful. Like when I get to ride my bike every day, I see the bike. I'm just like, this is gorgeous. It is such a nice bike. Yeah, we're very fortunate in the bike technology that we have and the professionals that we have making that for us. And then we've just put so much effort into the aerodynamics lately, which is it's really exciting. From I'm a bit of a science nerd myself, and I love that aspect of it. I think that's one of the best parts of cycling, to be honest.
Let's talk about your rivals just quickly to conclude, because otherwise we'd talk all day. It's Team GB, Team GB, Team GB, Team GB, and then New Zealand. What's the other? And then, of course, I spoke with Sutter the other day, so we know that America's in there, and the irrepressible Chloe Dygert, if she's driving that train, it's going to be a pretty stressful situation for those rivals.
It is so crazy when you don't get to race for a year and a half. You have no idea what sort of times people are pulling out, anything like that. So I think what everyone like, and it's the same for the countries over in Europe and stuff who don't know how we're going. I'm sure they're having the exact same conversations. So I think tactically it'll just be literally every country is going to go out and go crazy in that qualifying round. It's one race, one day. I think we're just going to see some insane times, and I definitely think that there's going to be a world record broken in Tokyo, which we haven't obviously seen in the women's event for a while now. We haven't seen a world record broken, so I'm looking forward to see that happen.
Oh, Maeve, it's such an exciting time. It's kind of weird to be talking about it now, but once the competitions went underway, then I'm sure we'll all get really excited. I wish you all the best. Thanks for taking the time to introduce yourself to me and the people who watch Ride Media's YouTube channel. And I hope we're talking soon to talk about the success that you've had. So
thank you so much. Thank you. Nice chatting.
Super cool. Thanks very much.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye-bye.